Good evening, everyone. I'm Doug Farnsley. I'm the mayor of Prospect. Welcome to City Hall. This is the City Council regular meeting for Monday, November 17, 2025. The time is 7 p.m. and I'll call this meeting to order. First item of business on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the October 20, 2025 regular council meeting. Those have been reviewed, or circulated to the council and were available on the website. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve the minutes as distributed?
So moved.
Dr. Furman made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes stand approved. The next item on the agenda is comments from citizens. We have two people signed up to speak. So first I'll ask Greg Franklin from the Hunting Creek Country Club. If you would speak, please. Just step up over here. Tell us your name. You get 3 minutes, and then we'll throw something at you.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. How we're doing this evening? I'm here I'm Greg Franklin, Clubhouse Manager from Hunting Creek Country Club. And I just want to put some statements about golf carts. And what we do is, this is for all our members that owns golf carts there. Drivers must be licensed and at least 16 years old of age. All members own carts must undergo and pass a golf shop inspection. Proof of insurance is required for all carts. These procedures help us distinguish member-owned carts from non-member-owned carts in the neighborhood, ensuring proper identification if issues arise. Upon inspection, the carts will be assigned a number and marked with a Hunting Creek CC logo and registered through the golf course. These steps we put in place to promote safety, and also we try to be respectful and responsible neighbors. Thank you.
Greg, appreciate you being here. Appreciate the great work you do at the club.
Thank you.
And Michael Dees, you've also signed up. Would you like to speak?
He just said everything down.
Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. All right. Next item on the is anyone else? No one else was signed up. Does anybody else feel moved to speak? Okay. Next item on the agenda is my report. So I will begin my report this evening by welcoming Mayor Jim Brainerd from Carmel, Indiana. The mayor is on our agenda, and in a few minutes, he will provide a report on the status of our public-private partnership. Jim, thanks for being here, and we look forward to hearing from you. In other business, on Thursday, July 23rd, I met at City Hall with HOA presidents. Also in attendance were the city's senior staff, Tony, Michael, Jeff, Ron, and John. In preparation for the meeting, Michael McKeon had looked at the city's crime data for the two preceding 12-month periods. So for the 2 years preceding the meeting. Michael presented the facts, and I have asked him to go through those facts again this evening. The data tells us what we already knew: we live in a safe community. At the HOA president's meeting, we also discussed the advisability of regulating golf carts. I had heard at a coffee with the mayor a significant concern about children operating golf carts on city streets. A second citizen later expressed concern about an unrestrained infant being held by someone in a moving cart. The third member of our community reported that she had seen a cart operated by a child who clearly was not 16 years old. The child was looking at his phone as he was driving, and the child's father was sitting next to him. This incident shows that expecting parents to supervise their children is not going to solve this issue. If the council adopts the ordinance, it will mainly affect Hunting Creek, the estates of Hunting Creek, and to a lesser extent, Fox Harbor and Sutherland. The presidents voiced their support for the regulation of golf carts. A Kentucky statute authorizes cities to enact golf cart ordinances, such as the one before the council. The statute provides that the operation of carts be limited to licensed drivers. The ordinance on the agenda this evening complies with the statute. The ordinance also does not permit operation of golf carts on US 42 or on River Road. Carts would be inspected by our police and would be required to have the safety equipment listed in both the statute and the ordinance. One item that's not in the ordinance is an effective date, and we'll talk about that when we get to the ordinance on the agenda. But my suggestion is that we consider making it effective March 1, and then that we allow our police discretion in enforcement to allow an appropriate time for people to come into compliance. Although I think if it's adopted, I think the enforcement of requiring that operators be licensed drivers should begin probably immediately upon adoption. Another ordinance on this evening's agenda sets out a requirement for electric vehicle charging stations to be included in new commercial developments. This is a sensible ordinance and is worthy of consideration. It is my hope that we will have further discussion, whether it receives a first reading this evening or not, but that we have further discussion about application of the ordinance in a retroactive fashion to the public's development. On a different topic, the City and the Parks Committee are moving forward with repairs to the infrastructure in the Woodlands Park, the park behind City Hall that extends from Fox Harbor Road to Timber Ridge. A contractor has completed repairs to 2 bridges. Lynn Granger led a group of scouts in repairing the first section of the boardwalk that had been damaged in the spring flood. We have received bids from 2 contractors for repairs to the remaining portion of the boardwalk, and I anticipate that tomorrow we will award the work to one of those contractors. I express my appreciation to the Parks Committee, and particularly to Lynn Granger and to Sally Schneider for her leadership in coordinating the repair work. I have 4 further brief announcements. First, the current art exhibition will continue through December 7. The Art Committee has planned 3 exhibitions in 2026. One will begin on March 22nd. One will be a summer pop-up exhibition with the date to be determined, and the 3rd exhibition will open on September 27th. Second, please deliver new unwrapped toys to the collection box in City Hall to support Toys for Tots. Toys are especially needed for children ages 9 and older. Toy collection will end at 3 p.m. on Friday, December 5th. Third, Prospects Annual Trail Bash Run in Harrods Creek Park will be held at 9 a.m. on Sunday, November 23rd. I express my appreciation to Tina Bevan for organizing and leading this effort last year and again this year. So Tina, thank you for your work on it. I didn't run, but I was there, and it is a great event. It was really a lot of fun to be there. Fourth and finally, the city will hold a volunteer recognition breakfast this Wednesday at the Hunting Creek Country Club. I look forward to seeing members of the council who are able to attend and many of our volunteers then. That concludes my report. If there are no questions, we will move to the next item on the agenda. Okay, Jim, I'll let you report if you would, and I'm thinking maybe about 10 minutes and allow about 5 minutes for questions.
Okay. Dangerous when you ever ask a politician to stick to a time limit. Well, it's great to be here, Council. Carter, Mr. Gorman. It's an exciting time, the way I see it, for Prospect. You're doing something that most cities have failed at doing or haven't even bothered to try. I work a lot with cities through my work at Notre Dame, not only in the U.S., but England, some other places. You know, there's all sorts of great city plans sitting on shelves collecting dust because the city council hasn't taken the initiative to figure out how to actually implement them. And that's what this council is doing, and I get to help, and that's a lot of fun. What you're going to have in Prospect is something that many, many suburbs don't have, and that's a walkable, pedestrian-friendly downtown where people can gather, where they have dinner, where they can show visitors, and a place that will also bring in some good assessed value for the city to keep taxes reasonable. What we've done to start to set up public-private partnerships to get this done. Met first with the developer that has a contract to purchase the head property, and that's Wes Johnson. Met with both he and his financial backer. We then started to meetings with other people that would have an interest in how the property is developed and can make it special. We met with both the police chief and assistant chief, and so I want a wish list of how you police an area like this with all the best technology, and may not get it all, but let's take a look at that list. Do the same thing with the fire department, the EMS people in charge of the EMS. We Mayor identified one of the top annexation attorneys in the area. The city retained him, and we started to make certain that that property, which is pretty much surrounded by Prospect. When I was mayor of Carmel, we did 56 annexations. All but about 5 of them, though, were just little pockets like that, a few acres or a farmhouse. The farmer had sold his property to a developer and didn't want to pay the city taxes and left his house out of it. But we picked all those up over time. But anyway, the mayor, an attorney named Joe Kramer, make sure that we get that done properly. We spent some time talking about what type of master planning team we wanted. There were 3 firms we talked about. And 2 of the firms have been trained by the first firm, the principals. So we ended up hiring Jeff Speck in Boston with a second firm, and they've been friends, even though they're sometimes competitors, Mike Watkins from Maryland. You might be familiar with Mike's work because he was the lead in Norton Commons design here in, actually has a Prospect mailing address, I think, but here in the area. Jeff Speck wrote the book Suburban Nation and Walkable City, teaches part-time at Harvard and Williams College grad and Harvard architect, and is considered, as well as Mike Watkins, one of the leading planners for traditional downtowns, traditional urbanism focused on walkability, low rise density. So I'm real excited about that team. Mike and his assistant, the mayor, and I all met last week here. Did a lot of preliminary work. We brought in a civil engineering firm, a Structure Point, that has a lot of experience in this area. Mike McBride, who used to be my city engineer. They have about 700 professionals in their firms, a well-known firm in this part of the country. And they, including an engineer who happens to live just across the river that works for him. So he came to our meeting as well. But it'll be important for the master planner to work together with the civil engineer to make sure we get the roads right and know where the utilities are and know where the easements are and that sort of thing. And then the week of January, I think it's the 12th or 13th, whatever that Monday is, we're going to have what's called a charrette, big charrette. All the master planners will be here. We'll be talking to a lot of people in the community, but by the end of that week, we'll have some preliminary sketches on what a downtown could look like for Prospect. We also obtained a tax increment finance attorney that I'm familiar with. Indiana's licensed in Kentucky with the firm of Barnes and Thornburg, and he's going to be working with attorneys from Stites and Harbison here locally. Because we have to, once we have a master plan, and it's going to be a list of things that city has to finance, and a list of things the developer is going to finance. All these will be documented in what's called a project agreement. And that's really the essence of the public-private partnership. And when you do a TIF bond, I'll go into that in just a second, developers getting some benefit, but taxpayers can get some benefit as well. And so that will be negotiated. And that document then becomes a working document for several years as the new downtown is built. really the guide where everybody's in agreement. It's all written down so we know. I always said, don't enter into a contract with somebody you don't trust, but you have a contract because everybody's got a faulty memory after a while. So that document will have laid out exactly what the city's going to do and what the developer's going to do. We have also retained a financial advisor who has to analyze the TIF and put it, report into place that the bond sales people can use to sell those bonds. It's not automatic that they sell. That's got to be done properly. Or the private sector buyers won't buy them. And so we're using the firm of Baker and Tilly, which is a regional, almost national firm. I've worked with that firm in Carmel for many years, and we have really good people that will be involved with it, and I know they can do the job. We have yet to hire a public art consultant. I got some ideas. A landscape architect, which will be important for the public areas and the streetscapes. Possibly a park designer, because I think everyone would like to see some sort of center green space when you're building it, what I call general density, but a little higher density than what we see generally in Prospect. Those green spaces become very important. And then the bond sales firm will figure that out in conjunction with Baker Tilly as time goes on. And at some point, we'll probably want to hire someone to help a little bit with the PR, make sure that the public understands what we're doing and why and how it all works. And that'll be an important part of the team as well. We've also met with both the previous Chamber of Commerce president, the current president or executive director, not sure the exact titles. We met with a highway cabinet. Some of you were there, of course, last week. And this is important because 42 is Main Street, in essence. And regardless of what happens on this particular property, we want people to be able to walk to it. We want to feel comfortable walking to it. We want to make certain that over time, the private sector can continue to build a traditional walkable downtown along 42 as well. And so getting that right from the very beginning is important. I'm in a lot of meetings with Department of Transportation or Transportation Cabinet folks around the country over the years, and I was really impressed that they were listening. They were excited about doing things a little bit differently and working with the city. It was a very good meeting, I thought. We also met with Matt Wallace here. One of the things I'd like everybody to sort of think about this as well. Thinking about, one of the goals of downtown for it to work, one of the things that has to happen is there has to be activity from morning till night. If you're in New York City, it's 24/7, but here I think it's going to be morning till night. Does that mean what type of mix of businesses and perhaps more importantly, public facilities should there be? Should it be a theater, park, outdoor amphitheater, a place for markets, both in summer and winter, Christmas markets, so summer markets. Daycare is always a good thing that brings people there as well as a possibility to have other public, whether it's libraries or theaters, hotels. What's going to, really help make this the center of Prospect, Kentucky, a place people from all different backgrounds feel ownership in as their new downtown. So we, to that end, we met with Matt Wallace, who was head of the Shakespeare Theater in Louisville, and he gave us some really good ideas about, theaters and, the demand for theaters in this area. So that's where we are today. I'm really excited about that second week in January when we'll actually be able to watch these experts put a plan on paper, and we're going to do it. So there's rooms. They like to spread out for the entire week. We're going to do it down at our private sector partners building office where they can get a conference room and just leave everything out from day to day. But I encourage all of you to stop in and watch the progress. It's fun to see these guys just sketching away and arguing about this or that and trying to get the best. It's a really pretty exciting thing. Prospect's never really had a downtown, and these guys are going to draw, these professionals are going to draw one for us, and we all get to have input into it. So it should be an exciting time.
That week is January 12 to 16. I think you're coming in on the 13th.
Yes, I'm coming on the 13th.
But my understanding of it is they'll be working the whole week, but on January 14th, then again on January 16th, which are Wednesday and Friday of that week, they'll meet with stakeholders. So we'll have the opportunity to meet with them, see what they've done on Wednesday, what they've done to that point, what their ideas are. And we say, oh, no, that's not right. Don't do this, don't do that. And they go back to work, and then we come back on Friday and see where we are at that point. So you've probably been through these.
Been through these, and they're a lot of fun. Because it comes together very quickly. You have the right people in the room. And from there, then we'll be able to start to figure, okay, we need X linear feet of road and sewer pipe, and here's where the park's going to be. And we can start talking to experts. What's this going to cost? And we also know the height of the buildings, you know, property taxes paid per square foot. So if they're 2 stories or 4 stories, you know, if it's 4 stories versus 2 stories, it'll double. And then you borrow against that anticipated property tax. Hopefully, usually the developer signs for that note. So the taxpayers, there's no recourse against the taxpayers in the event it were to fail. And the way these deals are structured, that's a very, very almost impossible thing to happen anyway, absent a Great Depression or something. But we'll be able then to take those plans and start to work on the financial side of it. And I've done a lot of these, and I have yet to see one go along so quickly and smoothly to this point as Prospect. Everybody works together and gets along here. Just refreshing to see. I'm working in another unnamed big city, and we're on month 6, and we're about where we were 2 hours into my first meeting with the mayor. This is a city of 1 million+ people, so it's nice to work with a place that knows how to get things done. I was asked to give a speech over at King Charles's Foundation in England about 6 weeks ago. And they're trying to do the same thing we are. They have a housing shortage, and they don't want to build sprawl anymore. They want centers that people can walk to and cut down on automobile traffic. And it's interesting. They had the hereditary landowners who still own about 1/3 of the country. A lot of them had Lord on their name tags. That was interesting. And they brought the developers and the lenders all together and talking about how to build new towns. And here we are all the way across the Atlantic Ocean. They're talking about exactly the same issues, how to build town greens, how to build town centers that you're talking about here in Prospect. And so this is something that people all over the world want. I think they want centers in the place they've chosen to live. They want to be proud of their community. And this is going to be a great project.
Jim, thanks for the work you're doing. Thank you for your report. Are there questions for Mayor Brainerd?
Yes, sir.
Mayor, what is your understanding of the time frame for the attorneys moving on the annexation issue, which is the critical piece
Yeah.
for us to get started, really?
The Kentucky statutes, and there's several, and the mayor can explain this probably as well as I can, being an expert in Kentucky law, but there's several statutes to go under. We've chosen one we think is probably the best for Prospect, and the timeframes are all laid out under state law. And I think we're probably about 75 days away. Is that about right?
Sure, exactly. I know what we're focusing on first is the head property.
Yeah,
And John's been working on it, and Wes Johnson's working on it. We think we've got agreement from the people who we need to sign on the dotted line. So we'll get that done and move it forward as fast as we can.
and then Louisville's got to approve it.
Well,
Well, they have to, as long as we've met the requirements of that statute.
it's
They don't have the choice of turning it down.
it's supposed to be automatic.
Yeah, Councilor Leonard is correct. It should be automatic, and it somewhat depends on which statutes you use. So we pulled back a little and got an expert and made sure it's getting done properly. But you're right, that is the key to the whole thing. Absolutely it is.
There's a whole lot of moving parts in this, and that's a big one. That's a critical point.
That's why I think it would
Yeah.
be nice to let the council know they have done, so we have an idea of the 75 days or whatever.
Correct. Well, the council will be asked to approve an ordinance authorizing the annexation. And we'll do that. We'll call a special meeting and then we'll have a second reading. We can do that the next day if we're all.
Basically, voters in the district have to approve it.
Yeah, by petition.
By petition, the only people living there, as I understand it, are lessees. They would have no impact to their property taxes one way or the other and shouldn't have any reason to care really. I think there has to be some notices made first and then the council votes and then it's just waiting and
Well, and then after that, the person who represents our district, Scott Reed, takes it to the Metro Council.
Yeah.
With the backup information that's been provided by all of what we've done.
Sandra, thanks for your help with gathering other ordinances and.
Well, what we've been talking about doing, because hopefully there'll be more after this one, is developing some boilerplate for us to use for the future.
Correct.
And so the first one in a way is a guinea pig.
Yeah. Okay, well, Jim, thank you so much for the work you're doing. And for coming
well,
in.
thank you for the opportunity to do it. I'm having a lot of fun and we're all going to hopefully be able to talk about this someday. As I told the mayor the other day, so we had to take pictures when people are in all these meetings. We never did that in Carmel. I don't have pictures. Wish we had some of those way back. We were making some pretty big decisions in those meetings. And it's an exciting time for Prospect because what you're doing will be here for perpetuity. Generations from now, people will still, the buildings may change. The way the way the streets are laid out, the way the park areas are laid out, they'll be here forever. So it's exciting. Thank you.
Mike Watkins told us that he came down and visited, as Jim said. He said when they started in Norton Commons, the tax base there was $3 million. It's now over $1 billion. So there's real benefits, not just for the community, but for the city as well.
One of the other things that we might benefit from, those of us who got to see your pictures of the roundabouts,
Yeah.
the juxtaposition between what is now and what they were proposing, those are great. They're fantastic. And you could bring those and we'd be happy to have people come and look at
I
them.
will secure this pocket. So I've got it.
They're wonderful.
Thanks again, Jim.
Hey, Jim, a question. It says like you've got some wonderful urban planners and engineers on the team. Is our local architectural committee going to be involved in the process?
Yeah, I forgot to mention, I did speak to them. And I'm meeting with one of them tomorrow morning. But yeah, we want them to come to the charrette. We want them to be as involved as they want to be.
Okay, good.
Yeah, Mike.
We don't walk down and certify with golf cart.
You can't take it on to 42. Bob, did you have something? That's great. It's a great team effort. All right, let's move on to the agenda. Next item on the agenda is financial reports. John Carter.
Summarizing October's finances, cash in the bank was 480K plus. We had investments that totaled 4.4 million and change. So cash on hand at the end of the month was just over $5 million. Let's see, looking at the restricted revenue, our road fund now is at 171,000 and change. At this point in time, we've raised almost 50% of our income and we spent roughly 32% of all budgeted expenditures. And I'm still watching our budget's in line except for that tree maintenance line that we mentioned here last couple months. But otherwise, everything is on track. Actually, we've exceeded our real estate receipts at this point too. So if you have any questions.
Any questions for John? Thank you for that report. Next item on the agenda is Forestation Board report. Linda Knox. Hi, Linda.
Hello. And the good news is we now have 50 new trees in prospect from Arborfest. So, you know, fingers crossed they all do well. They contribute to our canopy as time goes on. The canopy tree program is also in progress. The trees have been dug. They're ready to be planted. We're still waiting for LG&E to complete the VUV evaluation on 2 of the properties. So we're hoping that it can be done before Thanksgiving, because in particular, there's a memorial tree going in for Jim Phelps, who's a well-known former president of Fox Harbor, and his family will be in town for Thanksgiving, and they're hoping that the tree is there and the family can visit. So we shall see. Arborfest went pretty well. We had a wonderful gentleman from the Kentucky Department of Forestry. He not only was he knowledgeable, but he was as personable as he could want to have come and visit. And he had a good time with us, and I think he's anxious to come back. He was even willing to talk with us about the program we hope to carry out in the future, and that's some tree event when it's, you know, not tree time, when it's January or it's February. You can't get outside and do much of anything. So we were putting together maybe a lecture of some sort. Herb Schellhammer is involved with Creasy Mayhan, and he attended a lecture there on oak trees that he said was fascinating. And even if you're not a tree person, he found it very interesting. So he was going to reach out to them to see if this individual would be available. Jack Baggett, the gentleman from the state, he'd be willing to come back and address the topic for us. So we're kind of excited that that could be something to do in the future. And then something I talked with the mayor about after the neighborhood forum was that some of our groups could address all these different HOAs, so they had some availability on ordinances, particularly affecting street trees, as well as the programs that could provide more trees to their communities. So that's kind of where we are. We are investigating a unauthorized tree removal that we're kind of still gathering information on, and we'll take action on that when we have more information. So that's my report for this month. Any questions?
Thanks, Linda. Any questions for Linda? So I am going to exercise my prerogative to rewrite the agenda, because your mention of the idea of a lecture reminded me that we had a very excellent Veterans Day lecture on Thursday, November 13th, here in the council room. Well attended. Brigadier General, Air Force Brigadier General Rob Gibbons, who lives in Sutherland, gave a great talk. Our veterans who were present, and those of us who are not veterans who were present, just had a great experience. Dave Holmes and Mayor Evans, who are both veterans, were present, and I hope you all agree that it was an excellent day. Okay, they're nodding, so I'll accept that.
The donkey serenade, just like that.
So thank you for reminding me about the lecture. I appreciate that. Next item on the agenda is Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee report. Tina Bevan.
Yeah, but the bids for the repair of the boardwalk that was damaged during the flooding, that's going to be tomorrow. I also want to give a shout out to Lynn Granger. Not for the 50-foot section, I guess. Through the volunteers and did a really nice job with it. It lasted this trail bash Sunday, November 23rd, and our entries are up this year. And local businesses are providing post race snacks and gift cards for the top finishers. So, and the weather was good for now. So, hope to see some of y'all there.
As I said, I was there last year. It really is a lot of fun. So I encourage folks to come down. I get the privilege of actually having a parking space in the.
Yes, she's.
Yeah. So if anybody would like to come and doesn't want to walk down the hill and back up the hill, I'll be glad to give you a ride. But it is a lot of fun. Thank you so much, Tina. Next item on the agenda is Jefferson County League of Cities report. Sandra?
I'll try to do it fast. There is no meeting in December because of Christmas. And in November, there is no meeting also because we have the annual dinner, which is this week, and I hope everybody's going to attend. The speaker is Michael Adams, and it sounds like it's going to be fairly interesting, especially in an election year coming up. And other than that, as you know, I have been working with Don Gibson and 6 other mayors to start profiling the 80 Jefferson County cities. And we have a first draft of our first report, which is every one of the 26 Metro Council districts and what the home rule cities are in those districts. And it has been an arduous report because, believe it or not, no one has ever done this before.
I can believe it.
And in general, we were looking at information that was probably 3/4 correct and 1/4 incorrect. And it was interesting that nobody named a home HOA as a city, but a number of them named cities as HOAs. And we even found that there were several, probably about 7 cities that nobody ever acknowledged as being cities from the Metro Council standpoint. We know that they're cities. Anyway, that draft will be out and a copy will be available probably in January. There's an article that has been written that talks about what a home rule city is and what they do. And if you haven't gotten one of those, it will be coming in. And the thought is that it would be used in like on websites or in newsletters. You can take a look at it and do whatever you choose to, but it's one of the first times we've ever done anything like that either. In regard to the tree committee, as you know, I mentioned last time, the mayor of Linden is on the Jefferson County Tree Committee. And the only thing so far that seems to have come out of it is that MSD is trying very hard to not have any trees planted within 15 feet of a road. That hasn't passed anything yet, but it is certainly on the horizon and has now been mentioned at least 2 of their meetings, which for us makes a big difference because we certainly have got trees in that area. The Louisville Water Company Advisory Committee has not met yet, so I don't have to tell you about that one. The Metro Public Works 109 Board, as you know, Metro has been trying to take over our trash collection for as long as they've existed. And they are working on it. We're at the point right now where we have got a draft report. And the consultant that did the draft has found it much more arduous than what they were initially contracted to do. And it has been. I mean, this is not a fake. They want $25,000 more than what they initially got, or we'll only get the draft, we'll never get the finished report. The reason we care as a home rule city is because the things that have been added into the report clarify things. It's too easy to reach a conclusion that is going in the wrong direction if you don't know what the components are to get to the conclusion. So I'm hoping on Thursday that they will go ahead and they will give them the other $25,000 so that we can see a true final report. Right now, again, home rule cities are not a major component of it, but there are still a number of paragraphs where they mention us. And initially, we were a component. And the bottom line was, the argument is that Metro is more efficient at trash collection, that they spend less on it than any of the rest of us. My personal opinion is that that is true if all you do is gloss over and take averages that don't accommodate the fact that we're very diverse. We're not as dense. We have much better equipment picking up our garbage. And so there's a lot of things that need to get put into the report. Anyway, that one, we'll see what happens in another couple of days. There's also, Metro has formed a community safety commission, and there are 26 members. Jack Will has been named to represent the Jefferson County League of Cities on that. They have not had really their first meeting yet, so nothing's coming out of it. In regard to the Kentucky League of Cities, Bonnie Jung has been the representative for her term, and she goes off now, and Rick Tonini will be going on to the executive board for her. Both of them are on the general board, but only one represents us on the executive board. And that's it.
Thank you, Sandra.
You're welcome.
Any questions for Sandra? So the dinner, JCLC dinner is this Thursday evening, so 3 days from now. And I think most of us are signed up to attend. We look forward to
You do a good job. This city has done a fine job of being represented at those, and generally they're pretty interesting.
they're good. And it's nice to see the other mayors and
Mhm.
speakers have all been good. So it'll be a good evening. It's fun to be together.
You know, that brings up one other point. We have a general meeting most months, not this month and next month. If there are any people that you would like to hear, I'm sure other people would like to hear them also. And I will be glad to put forward names of potential speakers and we can see if we can get them.
Okay, great. Thanks again. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the police report. Yes, sir. Tony?
Just want to go through a few things. It's been just a little over a year since myself and Michael took over. I want to thank you, the mayor, and the council for your support that you give us throughout the year. It's important that you guys are supportive of us so we can do our job. We really appreciate that. Thought that was important to put out front. There was a few things that we started, I want to go over that I think serve our residents well. We really ramped up communications when we took over, sending out alerts, setting up an email that just goes straight to us so that a resident can send us tips. They can send us other information. If they don't have time for a phone call, they don't have something they would call dispatch about, they have access to send us an email if they have questions that they want answered. We have a Ring app that people can sign up for. You do not have to have a Ring camera. That gives us access to not only send crime alerts out through email through the city, we can send them out through that Ring app as well. So that gives us more lines of communication to talk to residents, to send things out. When we first started sending those out, it sort of alarmed people a little bit because we hadn't had a whole lot of communication before that, to be frank. Then about 5 to 6 months into it, people have gotten used to seeing things from us. And we don't get near the amount of phone calls that we used to get at the beginning of that when people felt like something more was going on than usual. Now they've gotten used to knowing what's going on. And I think that's a good thing. We did meet with the homeowners association presidents. As you said, that was a fantastic thing. It's a great thing for them to network, get to know each other, and it's good for them to be able to have open lines of communication with us, which they always do. But it's good because those positions do change. It's good for them to meet with them. We had a very successful meeting with them. Number 2, traffic. We really emphasized traffic when we came in. We've had a big increase in enforcement. Michael will show you something on the screen here in just a minute. We've had almost a 250% increase in traffic stops and an over 300% increase in enforcement. The guys have done a terrific job. We were able to obtain a traffic grant during this year. Small amount of money for a small department, which matches what we do. We'll see if it benefits the residents for us to be able to use it. If it does, we'll do it again. If it doesn't, we'll find alternatives. We're always thinking outside the box. That started this month. We were able to obtain 2 new speed signs. And when I say signs, they're the ones you see, they're about this big, yay big. They go on poles. We can set them in neighborhoods. It's a lot easier for us than moving the trailer. We do leave it there about probably 4 to 5 months because we can collect data from it, which tells us what that is seeing while it's out there and where we give feedback to the neighborhoods. We do move those around. The one is over on Gunpowder. You can see that now. We obtained a new traffic trailer that we move around that sits right out on 42, which whenever we change the speed limit, when the speed limit was changed, we were able to set that out, and that really helped us to get people, and State Highway came out, put the signs up to help us out, to notify people. It's really, I think, helped slow people down coming into that because they know exactly where it is now. And that's really made, I think, a big difference. So thanks for the money to get speed signs and speed trailer. That's how you support us, and we appreciate that. The ODM addresses, we got into that as we started. We probably had 2 or 3 calls back there that came to us. So that was a big deal. We had residents who paid property taxes to the city who were not able to be within our reporting system and our dispatch system. And Michael did a ton of work on that. I really appreciate it. Now they're in our system and we're good to go on that. And that's a big deal. It's a big deal to our residents. We saved a little money, switched our house watch program, which some people may drive them crazy to get an email every day, like we talk about, but
3 times a day.
yes, 3 times a day. When an officer's at your house, you get an email. You know what's going on. And I don't know that I've gotten, since I've been out here in 17, better feedback from anything than that program. I mean, it's really, people really do appreciate that. And it gives our officers a chance to get to know the residents as well and the neighbors. So that really has gone well. We were able to obtain a grant, save the city some money to get all new vests for our officers. So we're working on that. One very, very important thing that I think is Michael, for the last couple of years, has done a tremendous job on our investigations. Since he's moved over to this spot, he's still doing the investigations. He can't do them any longer. We are going to be hiring a terrific part-time investigator who is retiring from another department. He has 12 years of homicide experience. He's got doing background, as we talk about, we do it a lot. We're getting a fantastic person to come out here to work with us. He fits what we want on our team, and his experience is incredible. So one thing that I think is very important is when you need a case solved, you need it solved and you need to get it done. And there's nothing that will get the phone calling more, as we know, than if a person is a victim of a crime and it is something that's above and beyond a theft from a vehicle or something like that. So I'm real happy to say that we're going to have a really good experienced investigator to do that. And each department around here has some have full-time, some have part-time, but that'll be a great thing. So that's a nutshell, and Michael will put a little something up here. And if you guys have any questions at all, you know that, ask. We don't mind.
Chief, how soon will the part-time position be filled?
December.
When?
December 1st.
December 1st. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
First time use.
Yeah, because it worked when we weren't streaming and now I think it's not wanting to
New
work now that we're
technology.
streaming, yeah. Let me make sure I've got, well. All right. Looks like this is something we'll have to work out some other time. I'll just go ahead and roll through the stats rather than take up a bunch of
Yeah,
time
and you can
troubleshooting.
show your screen to folks while you're talking to it. The graph, I think, tells the story to some extent.
Let me see.
If you think that would be helpful.
Yeah, I don't think they'll be able to see that, but at any rate, what we've got is, this is kind of since it is our 1 year of being in here, we did this primarily for the HOA meeting, but it's kind of fortuitous. I mean, it kind of gives a demonstration of what's been accomplished in the 1 year. And the numbers tell the tale. So let's just go ahead and roll through these. And to be fair, a lot of these percentages sound like they're giant leaps. And that's not really the case. Our numbers are so small that if you get changes of just 2 or 3 incidents of the same type, it seems like there's 100% increase. And that's not necessarily, I mean, mathematically it's true, but it's just small changes here and there, but the numbers seem big. But for 2024, the 12-month period for 2024, before we took over, there were 7 burglaries. And for the year that we've been in place, there's been 3 for a change of, for a decrease of minus 57%. 2024, there were 24 thefts. 2025, there's 26 thefts. for an increase of 8.33%.
You say
And that's-
thefts. Go ahead.
And I was gonna say, that's primarily because of the increase in reporting that's coming from Kroger.
So that's shoplifting.
Yes. Car thefts in 2024, we had 14. This year, we had 4 for a decrease of 71%. The other crimes are things that domestics, criminal mischief, narcotics, any other thing that isn't in one of the previous categories is considered an other. We had 26 in 2024 and 20 this year for a decrease of 23%. Our traffic stops have increased by 246%, going from 148 to 513. Our traffic enforcement is up 306%. Our criminal citations are up 83%. Our accidents or injury accidents are down 11%. Non-injury accidents are up 32%. And the total accidents there are 88 for last year and 109 for this year, for a 23% total increase. But we expected that during the period of the initial speed limit change out here. While people got used to it, we had a few more fender benders, but the serious accidents haven't really changed. But we suspect as people get used to this, that'll go back to normal. Our e-calls, which are things that are preliminary investigations or things that aren't really crimes, but people want documentation, like they say, you know, the neighbor's dog keeps barking and I want it written down that I called. We'll do what's called an e-call. It's an administrative report. 2024, we did 32 of those. This year, we've done 67 for an increase of 109%. We've served 9 warrants this year so far that we didn't serve last year. Our warnings have gone up 239% for traffic enforcement. Our citations are also up 211%. And that's really about it as far as statistics.
Michael, let's back up. Give us the numbers on the car thefts again.
The actual car thefts where someone made away with a vehicle, 2024 was 14. We actually had several that year. They ran away with them. And in 2025, we've only had 4. That was the initial car hopper kind of thing that we had going on in May. That's when they got those 4. And we really haven't had any actual vehicle thefts since then. We've had a few get into some vehicles, but mostly they're just looking through them and going away. They aren't really taking anything. They busted a few windows. That's about it.
What would those be reported as?
Generally, they would be if they just break a window and don't take anything, that would generally be reported as a criminal mischief because it's damage to the vehicle. And then if they look through the car but don't take anything, it's really hard to categorize that as anything. And a lot of those will fall into those e-calls, you know, where we assign a report number to that incident. And then if we can turn it into something, we'll reclassify that as what we call a NIBRS report and make the full criminal incident report and then investigate those and make charges if we're able to.
And then if they took the gun out of the car, what's
Yeah, that would be a full NIBRS report. That would be the theft of a firearm from a vehicle.
So what do you contribute to the reduction in car thefts?
Well, I'd like to say it's Tony and I, but there's no metric by which I could prove that. You know, anything I could say that we did, it would be anecdotal. I mean, these things are cyclical. So, I mean, it could just be dumb luck, you know, it's hard to say.
One thing that's worth mentioning is 2 car thefts have been stopped by our police.
Yes.
And that one was
Yeah.
on Scenic Hill and one was in the landings.
Yeah.
And the one in the landings was actually led to a collision between the person.
And the other one in September.
Yeah.
The late watch officer called him coming out.
Yeah.
So,
Back up on West.
yeah, so I think there's something to the
The
police.
officers get the credit.
Right.
Yeah.
And in all seriousness, I think it's also helped, as Chief Denham said, we really stepped up our communication with the residents. And at first, I do believe we really spooked a lot of people because they were hearing about this for the first time, even though the numbers really, as we can see, weren't as bad as they were the previous year.
Lock your cars.
Yeah, but that communication, and we kept communicating that, lock your cars, put your stuff, don't leave stuff in your cars. And I think that's had a big impact too, because you can see in the videos, I mean, the guys the car hoppers will still come out here occasionally, but they'll walk up to the car, it's locked, and they move on. They don't really mess with them. So, I mean, we've had them still come out and try us, but they've been more unsuccessful than they have in the past. So they've been hitting the areas all around us and pretty much avoiding us, and knock on wood.
Yeah, I would venture to say that it's not a coincidence that they're avoiding us. I think they don't know where the lines are that define the city of Prospect, but they know that they ran into a policeman literally in a car in the landings. They know that the police came upon them on Scenic Hill, and these guys are talking to each other. They know each other. So I think the word is out. You don't necessarily want to get into this area out on US 42 on the other side of the Snyder.
Yeah, because our guys are even spooking the Amazon drivers at night. The Amazon drivers come through here and they tread pretty lightly too. Because we're chasing them around. We're like, what are you doing? Amazon.
Has there been any, has
They
there
drop
been
you
any,
apart, be it.
has there been anything on the thing that was on TV about the individual that had the picture that did some damage?
Vandalism.
For the gate, yeah.
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 We're on top.
Right, yeah. I don't want to say too much because that's
Okay.
an ongoing investigation. This is a public thing, but that one will be solved.
Got it.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Tony and Michael? Thank you both for the work you do and for the report this evening. It's excellent, excellent on both counts. Okay, the next item on the agenda is unfinished business. There's nothing under unfinished business on the agenda, so we'll turn to new business. The first item is the first reading of ordinance 657, series 2025. And this is an ordinance relating to the amendment and modification of chapter 150, requiring EV charging stations, electric vehicle charging stations to be installed in new or enlarged commercial parking. So Mr. Holmes has drafted that. The note on the agenda is this ordinance creates a new section of chapter 150 of the City of Prospect Code of Ordinance to require installation of EV charging stations in new or enlarged commercial parking. So let me ask, and we'll ask David to talk about this. But first, is there a motion to give a first reading to this ordinance?
So move.
Okay, Mr. Holmes has made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Dr. Furman has seconded. So now we'll have discussion. Mr. Holmes, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you. I became interested in this topic through the summer interns that we had here at Prospect. They, as part of their work, looked at the possibility of Prospect having some of their city vehicles be electric vehicles, and did a review of that and talked about the possibility of that. And of course, as part of the possibility of doing that is that we would have to install electric chargers here at the city. So that made me start thinking about, are there electric chargers anywhere in Prospect other than theoretically putting them in the city? The answer is there's one, and it's by Highland Cleaners. And it is installed such in a way that the charger can charge 2 cars at the same time, apparently. The most unbelievable thing about it is it's free. There's not a charge for it. I haven't gone into Highland and asked them about why they did it or who's using it or anything of that kind of nature. But that, for all of Prospect, that is the only electric charger that we have. I also noticed that since we've lived here in Prospect, you're seeing more and more electric cars. Some of them come from outside of Prospect through Oldham County and elsewhere, but you see a lot more of them. So I Googled how many cars are being sold in the country in 2025. And it's approximately 10% of the cars that are sold in the United States are electric cars. They project that by 2030, 30% of the cars sold, so new cars being sold, will be electric cars. If you have followed the news here in Jefferson County, Ford Motor has just announced that they're going to close down one of their manufacturing lines to retool it for electric vehicles completely. So one of the three manufacturing plants that Ford Motor has here in Louisville by 2027 is going to be all electric. So we have two commercial developments that are coming online here. You know, to require anybody to do electric charging now where we don't have any increases in parking spaces is a little bit, you know, over the top perhaps. But we have two commercial developments coming on. We have the public area being redeveloped, and we also have the head property. Now, the head property, in theory, assuming that we're able to make a public partnership out of it, we'll have some say in where the parking goes and if you have electric charging stations for it. But the long and the short of all this is that electric vehicle future is right now. It's not long-term, a long time from. It may be that none of the rest of us are going to have electric cars other than our great doctor down here and the former mayor sitting in there. But theoretically, along the lines, lots more people are going to have electric cars. And I think Prospect needs to be a part of trying to facilitate for our citizens and for our visitors places that allow us to recharge our cars. The ordinance that I drafted follows a number of different municipalities throughout the country. And I looked at them in Minneapolis, Chicago, Denver, a number of them in California, and Seattle were the ones that jumped out on Google to look at. The majority of them that I saw on Google require either 10% of new parking spaces to be for electric vehicles with superchargers, or some of them up to 20%. The ones that I saw that really got my attention was, I think it's Denver, where they do require 10% for existing charging stations if you create new parking spaces. But also, if you're creating new parking spaces, 10% charging stations, but you wire additional 10%. So as more electric cars come online, you're able to, without having to dig up the whole parking space, you're able to hook up and make some additional charging spaces. So that's kind of the way that I ended up drafting it. And I really hope Prospect looks at this seriously and tries to do something, because I think this is the future. And I think if our job as people on the council is to try to facilitate making life easier for our citizens, one of the things we're going to need to do is have electric charging stations available for the public. If in fact the head property goes through and we have a wonderful development there, and as the public grocery store goes in, it's not going to serve just people from Prospect. We're going to be bringing people in from all over the area. Public will do that no matter what, but so would the development of the head property. And we need to facilitate people being able to come in from elsewhere who need to charge their car up before they go home or go on with their trip other than that. So I hope you take this seriously and consider it. Anyhow.
David, thank you for your work on this and for drafting this. And it is something I feel confident we'll reach a point where we're adopting something along the lines of what you've presented. Is there further discussion?
David, did you do any research in terms of how much?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Doug.
Did you do any research in terms of how much the cost is for
No,
what you're
I
proposing?
did not look into that. The one thing I neglected to say that needs to be said is that for any commercial developer who puts in charging stations under this ordinance, they're allowed to charge commercially reasonable amounts on that. You'll see that for Tesla and all the other places across the country. When you go in to charge in, most people use a credit card or a debit card or something, but you have to pay for doing that. I'm not requiring them to do free like they are at Highland, which still is amazing to me. So they would be able to charge for charging in the development time. But no, I did not look into how much they cost because that's a
Good point, Don. And that was a question I had as well about what it would cost. And I think the recovery time on the installation would be significant, David. And I appreciate your work on this. We talked earlier today about the percentages and the adoption of EVs in Kentucky is much lower than probably the cities that you're citing there. I, for one, would like to understand better how you got to the 10 and 10 with some data. So do you think that you could?
It wasn't data, it came from other municipalities.
Okay.
When I Googled
We're
other,
talking about Google though.
yeah,
I don't,
I'm capable of Googling things, and that's how I did
I
it.
don't always trust what comes up on Google though, or a.
No, I had the same question.
Hold on. John, have you finished your comments?
Well, I just wondered if you would maybe put this off till next month for first reading so that we could, each one of us could talk to you about the process and the analytics that you used to get to the 10 and 10. I'm fully supportive of putting EV stations in.
The concern I have is I would like this to be in place before public starts constructing parking spaces, because I think it's critical that public has electric, whether it's 5%, 10%, whatever. But I think it's critical that they have.
David, any idea?
I'm sorry, Don. I
Let
couldn't-
let me ask a question. Publix is going to be putting in, according to their overlay, 100 new parking spaces, or 95 to 100. I'm counting those little tiny places on there. So that would be
10.
10 and then wiring for 10. And we have no idea what it would cost them to do
Actually,
that.
I did look.
Okay, are you finished, John?
Yeah, I still would like to put off the first reading till December if you'd be amenable to that.
Sandra?
Okay, looking just that this was very short, but there are 3 levels of charging stations, 1, 2, and 3. 1 is the typical one that goes into a house. And the reason that they're different is that the way they send through the energy, it takes differing amounts of time for the charging to take place. Level 1 chargings take somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 50 hours. Level 2 is faster, but even level 2 takes 4 to 10 hours. Level 3 is what goes into most commercial establishments, and even that takes 20 minutes to 1 hour. Level 3, which is what I imagine you're talking about, the cheapest is $10,000 per up to $40,000, and that's in what I got in today's money. I have trouble also with I can see this charge, depending on where we're talking about it, being prohibitive for development. I'm all for electric charging stations, but when we start talking about 10%, and we start saying to these small businesses, it's going to take an hour to charge,
So
they're all of a sudden they've lost the ability to have people go in and out of.
it's
business.
highly unlikely that a small business is going to have add enough parking spaces or create enough parking spaces that they would even have to do. You've got to have at least 10 new parking spaces before you'd have 1 electric charger.
Why?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've heard your comment and you can speak again. Don Gibson.
I'm concerned that what I'm hearing, that Publix, we want Publix to come in. They have 200 parking spaces and we want to do 10% or 20 at $20,000 to $40,000 each for, I think that's a penalty. And I don't think it's an incentive for private businesses to come in, even with their new development. I think it's something we need to leave to the private sector as opposed to mandating it. It might be something we would consider offering incentives, but I don't think we should mandate it with an ordinance.
So one, Public is not putting in 200 parking spaces. John had just said that he
I don't know how many.
counted, and they're going to put in 100. So you're talking about 10. But if you don't like 10%, do 5%, but require them to do something. The Public that they have at Nags Head, North Carolina, where my stepdaughter lives, they have 10 electric charging stations there. Public put those in.
David, and I think that's the way it ought to work. If Publix or any business sees it as a way of customer satisfaction or getting more customers having a charging station, then so be it. But the city might offer some type of incentive, but I think here this to mandate it is we're barking up the wrong tree.
Okay,
Let the private sector fix the problem.
okay. Is there further discussion? So are we ready to vote on the first reading? And regardless of what we do tonight, I think this is something that discussion will continue. And my guess is we'll come to some consensus in the coming weeks. So the motion is for first reading of ordinance 657, the electric charging stations requirement. I'll ask Sandra if you'll vote first.
No.
Okay, John?
No, for the
Frank
reasons
Clark?
I stated.
Okay. David Holmes?
Yes.
Okay. And Mayor Evans?
No.
Okay, Don Gibson?
No.
Furman?
Yes.
Okay, so that is defeated, I believe, by a vote of 4-2. Did I count that right? So what I would suggest we do is put your head together with John and you all work on this. Maybe we come back to the first reading, a new first reading of a revised ordinance.
Glad to.
Appreciate that. Okay, next item on the agenda is, and appreciate your work on it. I think it is important. And Publix, I know, has said they have got spaces that are going to be, I guess, wired for it already. So they're thinking about this, and I think they'll be amenable to working with us. Next item on the agenda is first reading of ordinance 658, an ordinance authorizing and regulating the operation of golf carts on certain public roadways pursuant to KRS 189.286, and creating a new chapter 75 of the City of Prospect Code of Ordinance for that purpose. Is there a motion to give that ordinance a first reading?
Yes.
Mayor Evans made that motion. Is there a second?
Second,
David Holmes seconded. Is there discussion?
I like the ordinance that you have drafted, Mayor. I think it does several things that are critical for the golf cart aspect. One, the driver's license, two, lighting, and three, seat belts. I am concerned about the effective date for the equipment and registration. Although I agree with you totally that the driver's license should be effective on the passage of this. I don't think we should have young kids driving golf carts, especially for me, unlit in the neighborhoods. I think that's a very unsafe procedure, but I think we should let our citizens have time to get the equipment for their golf carts up to snuff and registration. So I'd like to make a motion to amend the draft to include an effective date of a passage for having the driver's license requirement, and then for the equipment and registration requirement, have an effective date of March 1st,
David,
2026.
help me here. Is it not a state law if you operate a golf cart or any vehicle on a state road, you have to have a driver's license?
Yes,
On a public street.
on a public street.
So we've already got that, right?
Yeah, but I think
It's
we need to
enfor-
say that we're enforcing that effectively now because we have teenagers and younger kids than that that are driving without it. So, and this allows the citizens to, in Prospect, to recognize that there is a state law requiring that because they're not complying with it.
Right. But those are good comments. Is there further discussion from any? Go
Under
ahead.
operational requirements, are all those specified by the Kentucky Revised Statutes?
You're talking about speed limits and
Headlamps, tail lamps, stop lamps, et cetera.
that's all in the statute.
It's all in the statute.
Yes, the ordinance dovetails with or mirrors the statute.
Okay.
I had a couple of
Yeah,
questions.
Sandra.
One is we're talking about having, this issue has come up before. The issue has, the reason it was not passed before to do anything was because of the inspection component. Prior police chiefs did not want their people doing the inspection. And when I read this, I wasn't totally sure that it was just a police function or whether or not it was going to have some component with the sheriffs or something other than you doing the inspection.
We do. We talk with, there's a sheriff in Oldham County who does them as well as the one down here downtown, from the Jefferson County Sheriffs. So we would definitely be working with them to do that.
How would you do it yearly or?
Well, I mean, we have to do the initial inspections and yeah, it's done yearly, but we'd have to do the initial inspections. That's why we're talking about having a little bit of a grace period because we're going to have time to do them.
And then people would do them annually after that?
Is the inspection annual or is there one inspection?
The one we,
Well, you could, they're good for the year,
yes.
but personally, I thought what we should do is work something out with either a sheriff's deputy that performs those inspections, or we could send one of our own people to the course. It's like a day-long class, $200, something like that. And then conduct those inspections, say, once a month, like either at the country club or up here, and people could bring the, or someplace that would be accessible for the carts safely. And then, you know, we could hit those once a month so you don't get a large crowd all at once. People can come piecemeal throughout the year. You know, if somebody buys a new cart, then they don't have to wait until an annual inspection. They can come up during that period that's monthly and get their inspection.
Thank you. Another question I had was that the Kentucky statute indicates that the provisions of all of this, which we've incorporated, is not used on a public roadway. So you wouldn't have to have all of this equipment unless you were going to go on a public roadway. Ours doesn't specify that. So are we saying every golf cart in our city would have to have these?
Every golf cart that goes on our streets. If you got a golf cart that lives at the club and is used only at the club,
Okay.
this would not apply to that. This would apply to somebody who lives in the estate section and drives their cart to the club on
So
our
none of the
streets.
ones in Sutherland would have to comply?
Yes, they would, if they use the streets in
Well, they
Sutherland.
can't, oh, okay, because.
If they're on the
Yeah.
streets, they would need to comply. And I think what I would suggest, I think it's good to get an effective date for this and to start enforcement of the, if it's approved, start enforcement of the driver's license requirement. But on the other aspects of it, I think we look to our police to have discretion about how to phase it in. I'm not sure we need to spell that out in the ordinance, but I think it's going to take time to get all these things sorted out. But I think we get that process started.
And I have a question. So these golf carts, do they have seat belts now or just the new or the older golf carts? It seems like I've never seen seat belts in golf carts. Are the newer ones having seat belts? So I don't know if there should be like a grandfather clause, like are they going to, people have just going to, can you install seat belts in old golf carts to make them compliant? So
You can have them installed.
You can just have them installed, yeah.
I had an old car once that didn't have seatbelts. I had them installed.
Installed. Okay, so then I think I think some kind of time frame, because it's gonna, people have to get them installed. I mean, it's not like,
Yeah.
just like
Well, it's
that.
not just seatbelts. I mean, a lot.
All this stuff, but I mean, it seems like some of the stuff would be easier. I don't know, maybe it's all easy. Maybe you just take your golf cart and get it all fixed at once or something.
Okay, what we're gonna do is avoid a conversation.
Yeah.
And we're gonna call on council members to speak. So Dr. Furman, do you have any further comments?
So I just think like a phased in approach so people can, get it done in time.
Okay. Other comments?
He made a motion to amend.
I made a motion to amend,
Motion, okay, the motion to amend is to do what?
is to make the driver's license requirement effective on passage, even though that's the state law
Okay,
anyway. but
okay.
At least it puts the onus on the public that they'll know that.
Okay,
And then the equipment and registration requirement to be effective March 1st.
okay, okay. So is there,
Of 2026.
okay, is there a second to that motion?
Tony, are you okay with that, March 1?
Yes.
Okay. I'll
Well,
second.
you might be, but how realistic
Well,
is
hold on,
that?
hold on. Let's not discuss it till we get a motion in a second.
I
So we've
second.
got a second. Okay, Sandra?
I had golf carts. I do not have one now. I wonder if we have talked at all to the people, for example, at the club, to find out how realistic this is in terms of time frame.
Okay, hold on, Michael. So we have discussed this with Zeke Larson, who's the manager at the club, who's out of town, not able to be here tonight. That's why Greg's here. So we appreciate you coming in. And I don't want to speak for you, but my impression from speaking with Zeke is that the club is very supportive of this effort, of what we're trying to accomplish here. Michael, I normally don't call on citizens, but you get a special dispensation, so you get to ask a question. But anybody else who wants to ask a question, it's going to be a little harder. Go ahead. Sure.
Plus maybe golf carts in the city or share with everyone here to be a single seat belt. Not one, just because they don't make golf carts with seat belts. I think the other components of the ordinance you will find, probably with the exception of the left and right blinker, all fitted the way the ordinance basically says that. If the statute is set the way that it is and there's no amendment room for what I would say
Oh.
seatbelt standpoint,
I'm sorry, we should have gotten a microphone.
I think what I'll say is, I don't believe you'll have a lot of pushback from those golfers that are using it. I would love to know citation and traffic statistics that are in the statistics that we have that the police department has encountered in Hunting Creek with golf carts and citations or warnings and all those statistics, as well as the either observations or pulling over of the statistics percentage of families that have been either warned or ticketed. There was an underage person driving. I would say it's submitted to the council, it's probably less than 2% of the entire citation is written. Over that, safety concerns, I understand. But I'm also speaking from what I know, what I've observed in 8 years of living up there. From an adult that plays, as well as the families and everybody who drives golf carts in that neighborhood. I think the biggest heartburn that we will hear back from them is around the installation of seatbelts in the golf cart. I think everything else you will probably have a lot of support.
Okay. Okay. So is there further discussion about the motion to amend? This is the motion to make the driver's license effective on passage and the equipment and safety requirements effective March 1 of 2026, I think you said, David. So are we ready to vote on the motion to amend? Dr. Furman,
Yes.
Mr. Gibson,
Yes.
Mayor Evans,
Yes.
David Holmes,
Yes.
John Clark,
Yes.
and Sandra Leonard.
No, only because the March 1st deadline concerns me.
Okay, so somebody keep track of that. Was it 5-1? Is that what the vote was? Okay, so the amendment is adopted. So now is there further discussion on the, is there further discussion on the motion for first reading as amended?
Well, let me point out, if somebody would make a motion to amend 7504, it's got a typo here. It says designated roadways. It actually should read permits and inspections.
Well, that's a Scrivener's. We can correct that. But if somebody will make that.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, there's the motion to make the correction that John said. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on that motion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that amendment is approved also. So now, is there further discussion on the motion for first reading as amended? If not,
I
I'll,
just want to ask a question. Would it not have served the purposes to only have made this so that we would enforce the underage drivers? In other words, do we need all of this? Or do we just need to put people on notice that people without driver's licenses shouldn't be driving?
Well, the short answer is that to briefly touch on what you were asking, every golf cart that's on the road is illegal. Because without this statute in place to give a legal framework for the operation of those, it is absolutely illegal to operate a golf cart on the roadway by a licensed driver or an unlicensed driver. The thing is in the past, it's just been a custom to look the other way because it is a golf community and it was just an effort to try to work, with the residents and allow them some freedom to enjoy the benefits of living in a community like that. But ultimately, the operation of those carts are illegal, and this is just to begin to provide that legal framework so we can have legal operation of those carts on the roads. And the way the statute is written, I think all of those components have to be part of the statute for it to be legal. Yeah.
Seatbelt scenario?
Sure, if you want to speak, can come up to the microphone.
yeah, we need.
Can't hear you.
It's not just can't hear, we're broadcasting to the city.
Just say,
Can you hear me? Okay. I would just say, like I said, I'm 56 years old. I've played golf since I was 5. And I've played in golf communities all over the world. I've played and ridden probably 100,000 golf carts. Not a single golf cart have I ever ridden in any golf cart community on anywhere in the United States or the world has a set of seatbelts. They don't. The rest of all those components in the ordinance, with the exception of maybe the blinkers, every resident up there has a golf cart that has lights, that has brake lights, that has the other components. The adults have driver's lights, and yeah, my comment is, again, from a statistical standpoint, it's dangerous for children, and I know the club has its own, basically, rules for how they enforce that for the families that are actually caught or they're actually subjected to, and letting them know what takes place. Everything else in that ordinance, I don't think you would have any pushback on whatsoever. Plus, what it would cost for having 100 golf carts and the golf cart companies to come out to install seat belts at probably around $175 to $200. That's what they would charge to come out to do it for every single one of them. In which you've got relatively a community that is compliant, knowing that they are driving, legal, illegal golf carts, but they are compliant, I would say 99% of the time. Like I said, I don't think you guys come up there and see children all over the neighborhood all the time, riding all over the place, because most everybody up there would hear about it.
But it happens.
I'm sure. I mean,
We've seen it. We've all seen it.
I listen, I know that it happens, and, but from a standpoint of what is going to be needed to enforce what I believe is 99% of the adult population in the Hunting Creek subdivision recognizes what they need to do to operate their golf carts.
So let me say this, so that you know, and so you can pass the word when people panic, if this is approved. We know what we're doing. We're not gonna be crazy. We're gonna phase this in over a long enough period of time that people have an opportunity to come into compliance. So if we're going to have an ordinance, we can only do it because there's a state statute that allows us to have this ordinance. We can't adopt an ordinance that violates state law. And right now, what's happening here in Prospect every day violates state law. So the legislature has given us the opportunity to permit what happens here in Prospect with these various requirements included. That's what we're attempting to do.
Another way of saying it is, we cannot, we can pass something that's more stringent than state law, but we cannot pass something that's less stringent. So there's really nothing that we can do about the fact that the state law requires a seatbelt.
Like I said, I would just, I would look to.
Enforcement's another issue.
I understand that. I would just look to take a poll of 10 other, 15 other, 20. I would venture to say any golf community in the state of Kentucky. I'd be first to admit that I would be wrong, but go look at any other golf community in the state of Kentucky that has golf carts in that community, that has golf carts that have seatbelts. You won't find them. You won't find them.
But are they in communities, are they in cities that have ordinances that permit them to operate, or are they operating illegally?
I can take you into a neighborhood in Frankfort, Kentucky that I know that has golf carts because it's the Country Club of Frankfort. And they don't have seatbelts on their golf.
Private roads.
Huh?
That's private roads.
Again, I can.
I
was a member of Frankfort.
Okay. I can take you to Paducah, Kentucky, where they're going. But anyway, I'm just saying that's, if that's the way the ordinance reads from a standpoint, obviously you will hear from the 100+ people in the city of.
And you please pass the word back to them. We know what we're doing. We know how to act. We know how to respect our neighbors and to use discretion. So that if you will help us spread that word, if this is approved, that would be appreciated.
You have my word, I will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are we ready to vote on?
One more question, Mike.
Yes.
The carts that are owned by the club, they're going over a golf cart crossing maybe twice on the golf course. Is that right, Mike? I know right in front of the clubhouse and then maybe over on Chestnut Hill.
Yes.
So
But they don't go along the street.
they'll be in a actual designated crossing zone, so they won't be subject to the.
Well, there's also other statutes that cover those types of vehicles where they're allowed to cross a roadway to go from private property to private
So the
property.
club doesn't have to put seat belts in all their cars.
Correct.
Okay,
Wouldn't
that's
have-
what I thought.
Yeah,
Thank
they
you.
would be exempt.
All right.
And just to be clear, so this, the amendment said March, everything has to be done by March 1st, the seatbelts and everything. So I just wonder if we need more time to get the seatbelts in.
We're gonna have time.
Okay.
But then why are we enacting that date?
Well, we're doing it because it's effective right now. If we enforce state law, nobody's gonna drive a golf cart from their home to the country club tomorrow. Because that would be illegal. It is illegal under state law.
No, I know.
We're trying to put in place a structure that permits the operation of vehicles, golf carts on our streets, and that gives us the ability to stop children, which we can, admittedly, we can do that now. But we're trying to put in place a system that will respect the golfers, support the rest of the community, protect our citizens from a 14-year-old who's driving a golf
No,
cart, looking at his
I
phone.
totally agree with that. I guess that the other question though is, we look like we've already indicated that the golf carts at the club are not on public streets. And so they don't need to do this. What about citizens who've got golf carts who don't go on public streets?
They don't go on public streets, they don't have to worry.
Okay. Okay, I see. In that case, the police would not require them to come in and.
Correct.
Okay.
So if there's a house, the good example would be the townhouses on Deep Creek that are adjacent to the club, that they wouldn't have to cross a public street to go to the club on that. So they wouldn't be subject to this. If they decide to use the public streets,
Then
They
they'd have to
would,
vote.
they would need to. Okay, are we ready to vote? Ms. Leonard?
No, only because I don't want the March date to be in there.
Okay, Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mayor Evans?
Yes.
Don Gibson?
Yes, but we need flexibility about the March 1st date.
Yeah. And
Yes.
okay. Okay, so we have a first reading. And I'll ask Mayor Evans, if you'll read the title for us, please.
We get it. You can get it down.
It's on the second page here. Oh, you got it. I'm sorry. I thought you were looking at the agenda.
Yeah, he's
So you got it.
He's got the, okay.
Yes, sir.
City of Prospect Ordinance Number 658, Series 2025. An ordinance authorizing and regulating the operation of golf carts on certain public roadways pursuant to KRS 189.286 and creating a new Chapter 75 of the City of Prospect Code of Ordinances for that purpose. Actually, it's the word ordinance should have an S on the end. That's it.
Thank you. So that is concludes the agenda. If there's no further business to come before the council, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Yes.
All in favor, please say aye.
Okay.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
I'll do that all the time.
Good job, city attorney.